You can probably picture a Yeti, even if you've never visited the Himalayas. From Scooby-Doo to Doctor Who, Tintin, and Monsters Inc., the Abominable Snowman has popped up regularly in films, video games, and television for decades. In popular culture, a Yeti is an enormous, shaggy ape man with huge feet and aggressive saber-like teeth. Its fur is either gray or white. It is often depicted roaming the snowy mountains alone, a feral throwback to our violent evolutionary past. Is there anything to this mythical creature beyond all tales and vivid imaginations? In the last few years, modern genetics has been brought to bear on the Himalayan Yeti. As a result, we may finally be able to put the mystery to bed. The Yeti is said to be muscular, covered with dark grayish or reddish-brown hair, and weigh between 200 and 400 pounds. It is relatively short compared to North America's Bigfoot, averaging about 6 feet, 1.8 meters in height. Though this is the most common form, reported Yetis have come in a variety of shapes. The Yeti is a character in ancient legends and folklore of the Himalaya people. In most of the tales, the Yeti is a figure of danger. Author Shiva Dakal told the BBC. The moral of the stories is often a warning to avoid dangerous wild animals and to stay close and safe within the community. Alexander the Great demanded to see a Yeti when he conquered the Indus Valley in 326 BC. But, according to National Geographic, local people told him they were unable to present one because the creatures could not survive at that low an altitude. In modern times, when Westerners started traveling to the Himalayas, the myth became more sensational, according to the BBC. In 1921, a journalist named Henry Newman interviewed a group of British explorers who had just returned from a Mount Everest expedition. The explorers told the journalist they had discovered some very large footprints on the mountain, to which their guides had attributed to Mitokagmi, essentially meaning man-bear-snowman. Newman got the snowman part right, but mistranslated Mito as filthy. Then he seemed to think abominable sounded even better, and used this more menacing name in the paper. Thus, a legend was born. In her book Still Living, Yeti, Sasquatch, and Neanderthal Enigma, researcher Myra Shackley offers the following description. Reported by 2 hikers in 1942 who saw 2 black specks moving across the snow about a quarter of a mile below them. Despite this significant distance, they offered the following very detailed description. The height was not much less than 8 feet. The heads were described as squarish, and the ears must lie close to the skull because there was no projection from the silhouette against the snow. The shoulders sloped sharply down to a powerful chest, covered by reddish-brown hair, which formed a close body fur mixed with long, straight hairs hanging downward. Another person saw a creature about the size and build of a small man. The head covered with long hair, but the face and chest not very hairy at all. Reddish-brown in color and bipedal, it was busy grubbing up roots and occasionally emitting a loud, high-pitched cry. It's not clear if these sightings were real, hoaxes, or misidentifications, though legendary mountaineer Reinhold Messner, who spent months in Nepal and Tibet, concluded that large bears in their tracks had often been mistaken for Yeti. He describes his own encounter with a large, unidentifiable creature in his book, My Quest for the Yeti, Confronting the Himalaya's Deepest Mystery. In March 1986, Anthony Woolridge, a hiker in the Himalayas, saw what he thought was a Yeti standing in the snow near a ridge, about 500 feet away. It didn't move or make noise, but Woolridge saw odd tracks in the snow that seemed to lead toward the figure. He took 2 photographs of the creature, which were later analyzed and proven genuine. Many in the Bigfoot community seized upon the photos as clear evidence of a Yeti, including John Napier, an anatomist and anthropologist who had served as the Smithsonian's institution's director of primate biology. Many considered it unlikely Woolridge could have made a mistake because of his extensive hiking experience in the region. The following year, researchers returned to where Woolridge had taken the photos and discovered that he had simply seen a dark rock outcropping that looked vertical from his position. It was all a mistake, much to the embarrassment of some Yeti believers. Is there any evidence proving the existence of the Abominable Snowman? Most of the evidence for the Yeti comes from sightings and reports. Like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, there is a distinct lack of hard proof for the Yeti's existence, though a few pieces of evidence have emerged over the years. In 1960, Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to scale Mount Everest, searched for evidence of the Yeti. He found what was claimed to be a scalp from the beast, though scientists later determined that the helmet-shaped hide was in fact made from siro, a Himalayan animal similar to a goat. In 2007, American TV show host Josh Gates claimed he found 3 mysterious footprints in the snow near a stream in the Himalayas. Locals were skeptical, suggesting that Gates, who had only been in the area for about a week, simply misinterpreted a bear track. Nothing more was learned about what made the print, and the track can now be found not in a natural history museum, but instead in a small display at Walt Disney World. In 2010, hunters in China caught a strange animal that they claimed was a Yeti. This mysterious hairless 4-legged animal was initially described as having features resembling a bear, but was finally identified as a civet, a small cat-like animal that had lost its hair from disease. A finger once revered in a monastery in Nepal and long claimed to be from a Yeti was examined by researchers at the Edinburgh Zoo in 2011. The finger generated controversy among Bigfoot and Yeti believers for decades, until DNA analysis proved that the finger was human, perhaps from a monk's corpse. The Russian government took an interest in the Yeti in 2011 and organized a conference of Bigfoot experts in western Siberia. Bigfoot researcher and biologist John Bindernagel claimed that he saw evidence that the Yeti not only exists, but also builds nests and shelters out of twisted tree branches. That group made headlines around the world when they issued a statement that they had indisputable proof of the Yeti, and were 95% sure it existed based on some gray hairs found in a clump moss in a cave. Bindernagel may have been impressed, but another scientist who participated in the same expedition concluded that the indisputable evidence was hoaxed. Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropologist at Idaho State University, who endorses the existence of Bigfoot, said that he suspected the twisted tree branches had been faked. Not only was there obvious evidence of tool-made cuts in the supposedly Yeti twisted branches, but also the trees were conveniently located just off a well-traveled trail and hardly in a remote area. Meldrum concluded that the whole Russian expedition was more of a publicity stunt than a serious scientific endeavor, likely designed to increase tourism in the impoverished coal mining region. Despite quasi-official claims of indisputable proof of the Yeti, nothing more has come of the story. In 2013, Oxford geneticist Brian Skies put out a call to all Yeti believers and institutions around the world, claiming to have a piece of Yeti hair, teeth, or tissue taken from a sighting. He received 57 samples, 36 of which were chosen for DNA testing, according to the University College London. These samples were then compared with the genomes of other animals stored on a database of all published DNA sequences. Most of the samples turned out to be from well-known animals such as cows, horses, and bears. However, Skies found that 2 of the samples, one from Bhutan and the other from India, were a 100% match for the jawbone of a Pleistocene polar bear that lived sometime between 40,000 and 120,000 years ago, a period of time when polar bear and closely related brown bear were separated as species, according to BBC. Skies thought the sample was probably a hybrid of a polar bear and a brown bear. However, 2 other scientists, Cedric Edwards and Ross Barnett, concluded a reanalysis of the same data. They said that the sample actually belonged to a Himalayan bear, a rare subspecies of the brown bear. Their study results were published in the Royal Society journal Proceedings of the Royal Society B. Another team of researchers, Ronald H. Pine and Eliezer E. Gutierrez, also analyzed the DNA and also concluded that there is no reason to believe that Skies' 2 samples came from anything but ordinary brown bears. And in 2017, yet another team of researchers analyzed 9 Yeti specimens, including bone, tooth, skin, hair, and fecal samples collected from monasteries, caves, and other sites in the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau. They also collected samples from bears in the region and from animals elsewhere in the world. Of the 9 Yeti samples, 8 were from Asian black bears, Himalayan brown bears, or Tibetan brown bears. The 9th was from a dog. The lack of hard evidence despite decades of searches doesn't deter true believers. The fact that these mysterious creatures haven't been found is not taken as evidence that they don't exist, but instead how rare, reclusive, and elusive they are. Like Bigfoot, a single body would prove that the Yeti exists, though no amount of evidence can prove they don't exist. For that reason alone, these animals, real or not, will likely always be with us. Do you have an interesting story about the Abominable Snowman? Tell us about it in the comments down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, Idea Haven.